For the past few years, I have watched for the past few years I have watched many prepper videos. A lot of shit hit the fan stuff. Prepared for the worst. Recently I watched a video, Survivor Metal Man in a flood. Had a lot of flooding around his area. And I left a comment and he said something about how I have truly experienced real life shit hit the fan. And it got me thinking, what is my real life shit hit the fan story? This is my real life shit hit the fan story. I was in my early 20s. I would work a job for a year, not get hired in because of my kidney disease. Work a job for 2 years, not get hired in because of my kidney disease. Got lucky and got hired in somewhere.
Here's Shlisa. She's getting ready for work though. Bye.
Luckily, I got back into a job that I had had before for 2 years. And it was as a temp. Same boss. It was great. I loved that job. I would have worked that job even if I had won the Powerball. I loved that job so much. I kind of knew I wouldn't get hired in, but I loved that job. I worked there another 2 years till it was time to get hired in. And when you don't get hired in, you're sent on your way and on to another job. The next job lasted 2 months. I needed a day off for a doctor's appointment. Got home, they called, don't bother coming back. Next job a month. Another call, don't bother coming back. Before you know it, I'm on unemployment. Now, I have always been a prepper before prepper was even a term, I suppose. I had always had stocks of food down in the basement, even liquor and tobacco. I always wanted to be comfortable if anything ever happened. But I tell you what, that stuff does not last long. Shit hit the fan. Shit hitting the fan can be a single night, freezing cold night without power during a blizzard, or it can be 2 years without income. I had my unemployment, but that only lasts so long. I had applied for Social Security because doctor said I'd be needing dialysis soon. I'd always known since the age of 16 I would need dialysis. They had told me at age 16 I would need dialysis within 10 years. And they were right on the nose. It was exactly 10 years, 1 month less, or was it 1 month? It was 1 month off of 10 years. It was almost exactly 10 years. I was 27 years old. I didn't have any unemployment. I didn't have my Social Security yet. The only thing I was getting was child support, $400 a month. I lived in a old house in the back corner of a little village, about 1 square mile. Walking distance to a gas station, a post office, a grocery store, and a drugstore. Thankfully, because even though I had a car, I couldn't insure it or put gas in it. I had no money. The only way I was able to keep my house was my rent was $400 a month. The child support was $400 a month, and I got food stamps. And my power got shut off a few times. My family pitched in and helped a little bit. The absolute rock bottom would have been, let's see, I started dialysis 2004 in July, and come November 2004, I was in the ICU. The catheter that I had in my neck, because the fistula in my arm wasn't working because it was botched, but the catheter had become septic, full of pus. And I knew I wasn't feeling well. I knew I was sick. But I didn't know what it was. And my son got home from school, and I told him to go to Grandma's, which was 2 blocks, 3 blocks down the road. She never visited me all them years I lived there, maybe once or twice. But I told him to go to Grandma's and have dinner there. I just wasn't feeling good. The next day he got off to school, and that's when I was in septic shock. I was basically in a walking coma. I remember laying there in my bed, looking up at the ceiling where there's this hole in the wall, and the landlord had kind of nailed a panel up there. Upstairs to this house was a little apartment, and that neighbor upstairs had a cat. That cat had figured out how to get in that hole and sit on that panel, and that panel would hang low from the ceiling just a little bit. And I was laying there in my bed. I couldn't move. I was in a septic shock. And I laid there. I couldn't move. And it seemed like forever, just laying there watching this cat look at me from outside my bedroom door in the hallway, up on the ceiling, chilling out, just watching me and me watching it. Creepy. I also remember a guy friend coming over and laying down next to me on my bed and talking. He might have even taken a nap next to me. I sure wished he had known how sick I was and got me an ambulance. But I remember that. All I remember from there was sometime after my son got home from school, he must have told my parents that I wasn't right. And my parents are extreme cheapskates. And why I bring this up is because ambulances are expensive, and they try to do everything as inexpensive as possible. Well, I get to the point here. They got me in their car and took me home with them and tried to nurse me back to health like a sick puppy. And I kind of remember getting in the car. It was still daytime. I do remember laying on the couch at their house, and they'd keep trying to get me to go to the bathroom, and I would run back to the couch and lay down. It wasn't until probably 11, 12 o'clock at night I remember them getting me back in the car to take me to the hospital. By the time they got me to the hospital, I guess my little sister was with us. She said I was acting like a 5-year-old child, very giggly. And the hospital said had they waited another hour to take me, I would have been dead. And I still can't forgive my parents to this day for that. I just, when your family's ill, call an ambulance, Don't worry about the money. Call an ambulance. I woke up, I don't know how many days later, and they had the TV on for me. No, that was the second time I woke up. The first time I woke up, I got out of the bed with a tube in every hole you can imagine, and then some. Climbed out of the bed, it was daytime, and I walked to the edge of the bed, giggling, looking over at the nurse's desk, and they were all running to me to get me back into bed. So maybe they doped me up to keep me from getting out of bed like that. Um, so I guess the second time I had woke up was the official time I woke up, because it was nighttime then, and the TV was on, and it was a Christmas commercial, and there was a little dog in the commercial, and I freaked out. Oh my God, my dog! Where's my dog? Is he okay? My dog, my dog, my dog. I got on the phone, I don't know how many days this was later, and called my mom, and she's all like, he's okay, he's okay. Alan and Bailey are here at the house. Everything's okay. Um, that's about all I remember about that. I was in the hospital for a month. It was tough because sometimes you had to deal with someone else in your room, and I don't do well with noise. Um, I hope my mom doesn't watch this, but it's been this way my whole life. But I asked her to bring my son to visit me, and she's always got an excuse. And her excuse was she'd been at work all day and she wanted some time to watch television and be off her feet. My mother couldn't bring my kid to see me while I was in the ICU. That whole month, actually. Um, Luckily, the ex-boyfriend, I could always count on him. It's hard to stay broke up with someone when you keep going back to him for help. But he's always been there. Um, that was the rock bottom of it all. The good news was I found a doctor who fixed my arm that had been botched, and I didn't need another catheter for several years because I did get sepsis again 2.5 years after that, but I knew the symptoms right away. It was a little bit different type of staph infection in the tube in my catheter, but that caused the damage in my spine, which is why I walk with a cane. So my shit hit the fan. That was the whole time I was in the ICU. My house had no power. This is rock bottom. I mean, I lost power while I was in the ICU. I'd already been struggling to keep my bills paid. So when I got out of the ICU and moved back home, I had no power. And this was November, well, maybe even December by then. Luckily, like I said, there was an apartment upstairs. And this little house was run by a slumlord, and he wired that place all screwed up to my benefit. Two of the outlets still worked. So I was able to keep my refrigerator running off of the neighbor's upstairs power. And in the back room, I was able to get a little heater going and a light. And so I had to heal up. Well, I had to have another surgery after that. But my son and we lived without power for a while. I didn't have a car, like I said. I had the car in the garage, but it wasn't legal, so I couldn't drive it. So all that winter, I walked around like a hunchback because I had that catheter in my neck, and I'm all patched up, and I had to walk in the snow to get to the grocery store. I had to walk in the snow to get to the drugstore, and at that time, the drugstore's son was taking over, and he didn't like his new job, and half the time my meds were not ready. So Yeah, I don't think I walked standing straight up for a couple months after that, but that was a tough, tough winter. That was really tough. Even the neighborhood bully kid followed me home one day when I was carrying eggs in the snow. And yeah, I dropped and broke my eggs. Um, Things started to get better as, the weather got better, of course. Um, I had told I had told the landlord I was moving out and that I was going to stay somewhere. And I got out of there and I stayed with a friend for a few months till I got my Social Security. And finally got that Social Security. That was the end of my shit hit the fan because that was a big amount of money. And not only did I get back pay to when I applied for it, my lawyer actually, because I saved all my documents, got me back pay even while as far back as when I was working because of an ultrasound that showed that my kidneys were bad enough to have gotten Social Security then. I really didn't have to go through the shit hit the fan. I could have applied for Social Security a whole lot sooner, but I never dwelled on that. I was just glad that it was over with. And the first thing I did was get the hell away from Michigan, get the hell away from my family who wasn't supporting me. When I started dialysis and met the kidney transplant team, they gave me information and DVDs to share with my family so they could help and see if they were matches. Nobody ever watched those DVDs, and after the incident where the family didn't get me an ambulance and I nearly died, I wanted to get the hell out of there. I wanted to go back to California, back home with my paternal family. Maybe they will give me the support that I need. Unfortunately, had a great trip, went to Yellowstone, had all kinds of great fun, but yeah, my family out there, I get a lot more support from my family out here, especially now that we communicate more better. But Michigan is officially home. California is just a place to visit. And shit hit the fan is over. It's not to say it won't happen again. So please understand, if shit hit the fan, shit hits the fan. Like I said, it could be just for one night during a winter blizzard, maybe not where you live. It could be something else. Heat without air conditioning, power going out. It could be something so small and so short lived to something longer than you can imagine. So if you do prepare, if you do stockpile, your stocks are only going to last so long. Keep the knowledge with you. Keep your communications strong. That is one of the most important things, I believe, for shit hit the fan. Not just your books and your possessions and your food, but your relationships. Keep your communications strong. Have tight relationships, bonds with people who you can all take care of each other in case shit hits the fan. Thank you for listening to my 20-minute story. And appreciate it.
Hi, Shlisa.
That's where we go, right there.
Dork.